Hey guys, it's me, Daniel, from the Benchmark. It's been a long time since I've, hang on, I'm just fiddling with this here. I should do a video about my camera equipment really, because it's actually quite interesting. Anyway, so it's been a long time since I uploaded the video. Those of you that follow me, you'll know why. I have had a difficult time, and the car's been out of action due to me screwing up with the car during that difficult time, and I just knocked it into something and had to send it back to Ralph the painter. At the same time, he fixed the bumper. Well, he did what he could with the bumpers. Still better than they were. I'll show you later. So today's episode is quite exciting, and you don't see many videos about it. Oh, by the way, I've lost my upshift on the pedal, which is unbelievable. I can't believe I did that. I was trying to change the paddles over to these nice carbon fibre ones by Burkhardt, and I know you have to be very careful when you change the paddles over. However, the screw that I have, which came with these aftermarket ones that I already have, didn't quite fit into the carbon fibre ones by Burkhardt. Now, I don't think it's their fault. I think it's designed to use the original screw, and I don't believe these use the original screw. And I spent like half an hour swearing and squeezing and pushing, and I misaligned the button that's behind the paddle on the upshift. This is quite a common problem. A lot of people do the same thing. But my downshift works. However, it's completely ruined the driving experience of the car, because the M3 is quite a hairy, menacing car. It's rear-wheel drive, and the traction control on the older models like this 2001, it doesn't really work. Well, it does work, but it just works a bit too late. So it's quite scary, especially if you're gunning it and you change gear. The gear change is very aggressive, and you can easily lose traction. And in a wet, it's well, roundabouts are fun, which I found out yesterday during that crazy thunderstorm. I like to have both hands on the steering wheel because I have more control when I'm changing gears. But now I'm having to use it like a manual car. Nothing wrong with that, of course, but I'm just so used to using the paddles, and I've got a downshift that works and an upshift that doesn't. And then the stick is designed to be proper, like a real race car. So back is upper gear, and forwards is down a gear. And you just, sometimes you forget, and you kind of get mixed up. And there's been a few times where I've blipped down as opposed to changing up. Anyway, I'm getting used to it now, but I've got to sort this paddle out. Anyway, moving on. This episode is pretty cool. My rear diff has seen better days, and I think those better days were probably about 10 years ago. Every time you do a slow turn, it would groan a lot. It would like sometimes deafen you in a way, because it would like, it hit a certain frequency that would just kind of travel in the cabin, and outside you could just about hear it as well, and it was fairly embarrassing. I mean, the diff worked, you know, you could drift it if you really want to, but at low speeds, when you're doing a tight corner, it just sounded absolutely, what's the word? What do the Americans use? Foobarred. It was bad. It was really bad. And so I knew something had to be done, and I was umming and ahhing of what to do. I was looking at wave track upgrades and all these other aftermarket solutions, and they're all fantastic. But then I realised I'm not Ayrton Senna, and it's predominantly a road car with the occasional track use. And then the track that I like is Nürburgring, which isn't really like a normal race course. It's more of a road course, but really fast. So I decided to stick with the original differential, and the original diff is actually very, very good. Now, finding someone to do the job was fairly difficult. There's a lot of rogue so-called diff rebuilders out there. However, I managed to find somebody, Mr. DJD. I believe his company name is M Everything. And he does a proper rebuild of the original differential, and he's the only person that I know of actually in the UK, possibly even Europe or the world, who actually rebuilds it with new parts. Now, BMW don't supply replacement parts for the diff. Now, I'm not an expert on gearboxes or diffs. They go way over my head. But this guy, Darragh Doyle, Mr. DJD, he, I can't tell you what he does for a job. He maybe promised not to say. But let's put it this way. He works in an industry where he maintains these cars. Not these cars, but the cars that have a 1 in them. And they go around the world and, you know, race with very famous teams. I can't really say any more than that. The guy is an engineer, a proper hardcore engineer that is employed by one of the top teams in the world. So that's pretty damn cool, and the guy really does know what he's talking about when it comes to diffs. And the problem with the original differentials, I say, it can't be rebuilt. You have to basically get a whole new one. I mean, you can half rebuild it, but then I can't. I mean, it's going to be in the video that follows up, but there are parts that cannot be replaced, but he can. So he also does an exchange basis. So you go to him with your old diff, and he'll give you a nice shiny powder coated, lovely jubbly, beautiful looking, almost like new. Better than what it came out of the factory, really, because it's all shiny and powder coated. Now, I was really on the fence about upgrading it at the same time. Now, there's a couple of things you can do. Like I mentioned earlier, you can upgrade the differential completely to like a wave track or something really hardcore. But I decided against that. And one thing that really bugs me about this car, and it bugs a lot of people, is the gearing. Now, first gear is fantastic. It's pretty short, and it really punches off the line. Second's okay, but then third, fourth, fifth, and sixth are really, really long. Really long. They're the longest gears. I mean, when you're in them, it feels like it's forever. You're looking at the gauge, you're at 6,000, 6,200, 6,500. I mean, it's fun because you're screaming the tits off the engine, but you just know it's blunting the performance. And now, it was intentional on BMW's part, and I'm having a guess here, it's probably to do with emissions. The taller the gearing, the more economical a car tends to be. The roads are so bad around here. So yeah, it's really tall geared. My God. Sorry, potholes galore on an unrestricted part of an A road. So I wanted to change the final gearing, and there's a couple of options out there. You can get the 3.91 gear set, and I believe they're from a different model BMW. I think it's like a 7 Series. However, they're completely sold out, and you can't find them anywhere, and they're going for silly money, like £1,000. But BMW actually made a set of gears for the E46 M3 that you can actually walk into BMW with a BMW part number and order. It is a genuine BMW part developed for the car, and it's called the Motorsport Gear Set, or Final Drive, and it's 4.1. Now, the 4.1s are quite well known. A lot of people discuss it on forums, and no one's really been definitive about it being a solution. And I was a little bit apprehensive, to be honest, as well. I thought, oh God, it's gonna make it like have really short gears. But here's the thing: the standard gearing on the E46 M3 goes to about 200 mile an hour. Now the car's never going to hit 200 mile an hour. However, that gearing does make it a fantastic touring car. You know, if you're on the autobahn and you want to cruise, you know, you're at 80, 90 mile an hour and you're about 3,000 RPM. It's a great touring gear set. However, as you are well aware, this is an M3. It's not a 740D or, you know, a long distance travel machine. And the gearing is at odds with the character of the car. So the 4.1 gear set lowers. It's the final drive change, okay, and it bolts straight in. As I say, it's an OEM BMW part, and it changes the final drive, which lowers the top speed. It lowers the gearing of every gear, but it still does about 170 to 180 mile an hour, which the car will still never hit standard. I mean, you'd be lucky to hit about 170. I've known a few guys in a CSL that have hit about 170, so it's possible, but that's acceptable. I mean, you're never going to do 180 mile an hour, right? You're not, unless you live in Germany and you really want to squeeze everything out of these engines. And now these engines are getting old. I don't think that's such a great idea, but it lowers the gearing and it makes the car feel much faster. Now there's mathematics behind it, and I can't really go into it because I don't quite understand how it works, but there's like a 20% increase in torque by doing this, and you feel it. So third and fourth gear, you can roll on the throttle and it's just got punch. And all the gears are shorter. It's much quicker. Every gear is shorter and it just turns into a bit of an animal. But anyway, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to flash back, show you the install, let Darragh introduce himself and explain what he does, because he'll do a far better job than I can, because I have really no idea how it all works. Yeah, fix my diff. And while you watch that, I'm going to wash the car, because I left it outside during that crazy thunderstorm last night. This is a great jet wash, by the way. Okay. Right. Okay. You watch that, I'll do this, and then when you're back, this will be nice and clean, and we can talk about how it makes the car feel.
Hi, welcome to my garage, which is Everything M3s on Facebook, Mr. DJD on Instagram. I run a small business rebuilding differentials for E46 M3s, engine work, gearbox work, chassis work, all that sort of thing. Lucky to have the benchmark here this morning to have his diff rebuilt. So I've pre-built a GKN unit for him with a 4.1 ratio crown wheel and pinion. The whole unit has been stripped, shot blasted, acid etched, treated with Por 15. Bearings have come from bearingkits.co.uk. And I have also put in a new part which has been developed between myself and a company called Drive and Traction, where we have actually developed and started to build the clutch plates that go inside the LSD, which are normally unavailable. So luckily we've got the benchmark here this morning, and yeah, we're going to get this in his car and see how it goes. So in here you've got your 4.1 LSD unit. So the 4.1 is the gear ratio. So this pinion here will spin 4 times to 1 rotation of your crown wheel. The stock crown wheel and pinion here, 3.6 ratio, gears the car to approximately 190 sort of miles an hour. Aerodynamics obviously reduce that. The 4.1 ratio here will gear the car down, so your top speed is lowered, but in turn your acceleration is increased.
And then of course it'll never hit anywhere near that, the standard, right?
Yeah,
so the gear to 200, quite close to 200, but it's got 330 horsepower. I mean, it's never going to hit it, right? So it's kind of wasted. It's kind of overgeared.
Overgeared,
and
yeah.
So this is a bit. Obviously, this gears it down, so it kind of maximises the potential of the engine, right? So
yes, exactly. So
high revving, naturally aspirated, 330, 350 horsepower.
Yeah.
This gearing is going to probably make it a little bit more punchy.
So inside of the LSD unit, you've got your clutch stack. So you've got your friction plates and your steels. These tend to wear out, which gives you excessive play in your right-hand output shaft on the E46 M3. With a collaboration with Drive and Traction, we have basically remanufactured both of these to bring the clutch stack back to its original height. It's then also re-shimmed, and it gives the diff a new lease of life.
And that's been installed in here, along with my 4.1 that I managed to get from Cotswold.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Genuine BMW oil with the added friction modifier, as recommended by BMW for the GKN unit. Needs to go in. Gear mesh pattern has been checked with the yellow gear mesh paste, just to make sure that the pinion is meshing into the crown wheel nicely. This turned out absolutely spot on. Everything's been re-shimmed. Pinion didn't need shimming. The side shims have been done for your backlash, and your gear mesh pattern is absolutely spot on.
Fantastic. You don't want to hear what it's like now.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Is it noisy, is it?
Oh, the noises it makes sometimes, you're just like, what is that? It's like a little gremlin living underneath.
So you can feel, if you feel the difference between this now that it's got the right preload and everything on the pinion, you'll see the one that comes out of your car. It's going to be a hell of a lot looser.
You're going to be shocked by the one that comes out. But everything's been done on it, and you probably can't even tell that. Every bush has been replaced.
Good. It does make for a much better car.
Yeah, it's a bit taut, but in a good way, I guess. I even had the, is it the bearing for the drive shaft?
Yeah.
That wore out and caused the whole car to wobble.
Oh really?
Yeah, that was fun. Trying to find out what caused the wobble was the fun part, because you don't know. You think it's everything. You start with wheels, and only when you get the car up and you just look everywhere, and finally you discover it's like right tucked up in there. It's that little tiny little, it's like a little bearing that goes in the middle.
Yes. Yeah.
It's only 40 quid.
On the prop shaft.
Yeah.
Yeah. Rusty.
Yeah, and you can see why I've got a problem with the ABS and the traction control.
Yes, I can. On a Sunday night, he came in and started doing a load of magic tricks for us. And honest to God, some of the best magic tricks I've ever seen. There she is.
You got her out. Is it the worst diff you've seen?
Not really.
She doesn't look too bad.
Probably the standard play. Yeah, it's really loose. That just spins. Preload's not quite there.
Now, what would that cause?
If you're not preloading up the pinion bearings, they'll wear quicker. They require loading on them to work properly.
But what would that cause in drivability of the car? What would you...
Noise.
I've got tons of that.
Tons of noise.
Yeah. Only when you turn.
Yeah.
But, it's unbelievable amount of noise.
Yeah, it'll be noise.
You can hear outside as well. It's like, whoa.
Oh, really?
That? Yeah.
Take care, man. Enjoy your car. It's been with you for a while. That's 27 inch-pounds of resistance on there. That's nice and tight.
So the car's going to be slower now, harder to turn.
it will basically break itself in.
Interesting.
And it will find its sweet spot.
Blimey, so that's my old one.
Yeah.
Oops, hello you. Looks perfectly fine on the inside though. Let's see the metal parts. Oh, I've got my eyes.
I think that bits from your rear casing.
Oh, okay. Otherwise you'd be spending hours trying to hammer a bush out and probably won't go back in.
I was already. I had one stripped for you.
Yeah. Not worth the hassle. So how are those drive shafts?
Bucked.
Ah.
Yeah, look at that.
Yeah, there was a bit of play in them.
You can replace those inner CVs.
Yeah, I've also got the problem with the the corrosion on the outside for the.
But look at that. You see how that moves?
Yeah.
You're gonna need. You can replace these very easily. The outers you can't reliably find a decent.
I need a whole new outer because it's all corroded. It's.
You do really, mate.
Oh man, it's hot. Of all days to decide to wash the car, and I'm in an expensive t-shirt. Genius. But it needed to be done. Okay, so welcome back. Darragh's amazing. I mean, he can get the rear diff out even with my old rusted, corroded bolts in the way. He can just turn it around. He can fit that thing in like 30 minutes. It's incredible. So he's really, really efficient at that. And once he gets his actual what's the name for them? Ramp? Is it a ramp? Lift? He'll be able to do it even quicker because he's having to do it on the ground with just some jack stands. So and he's getting that soon, so he'll be able to punch those diff swaps over real quick. When you're getting it done, it's worth upgrading your bushers. Mine were already done, except for two, which are OEM, and I did that. I've left those on purpose because it makes the car more comfortable. It doesn't make it quite as aggressive. I mean, I've got Powerflex bushers pretty much everywhere, but the two that are actually on the diff itself that attach to the chassis, they're OEM BMW, but everything else around it is Powerflex. And again, it's an NVH thing. I just don't want it to vibrate any more than it kind of already does, so I've got enough drone with that exhaust. So what's the difference like compared to standard? Massive. It is completely massive. Okay, I'm going to give you some of the positives straight away. Now, when I do motorway drive in this with the original gear set, because of my special cats and my Haynes and Scott exhaust, Haynes or Hayward, I forget, it drones at 3,000 to the point where it kind of deafens you. You can't have a conversation in the car, and it's always at about 3,000 RPM, and that's where the car sits at 70, 75 mile an hour, and it just drives you mad. But because I've changed the gearing, now the RPM is a bit higher, so it's above 3,000. We're talking like 300 RPM, but it's completely out of the drone zone, if you will. Now, all M3s suffer with drone when you put an aftermarket exhaust. People will always say, oh no, mine doesn't drone. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. It does. They all do. I mean, even the standard exhaust drones a little bit. As soon as you put an aftermarket one on there, it's going to drone. There's no way around it. They all drone. It's just, look, you learn to live with it. It's a character of the car. But this is just a side effect, really. Ever since doing that, the final drive change, gone. That was amazing. It's just gone. And then rolling on 6th gear now, it's just, well, the maths is it should develop about 20% more torque. Yeah, it is around about that. It feels 20% more powerful. It really does, just rolling on. It's phenomenal. It has transformed the car. It really has. It flies through the gears, and you're hitting that red line and changing up more often now, which just makes it so much more fun. And it just feels like it's been given like a rejuvenation, like it's lost 15 years and he's young again, and he's just found more energy. It's the gears it should have came with, and I guess that kind of makes sense. It's a BMW Motorsport part. I reckon this is the gear set they wanted to put in the car, only they couldn't. Okay, so the negatives, and there's only one negative, and it will affect people differently. First gear now is a complete animal. It's like a diesel car first gear where it's really short, and in this car that just means wheel spin, and it's really hard to overcome. In fact, you can't overcome it, and that's why you see a lot of people getting lower 0 to 60s, unless you've got really good weather like we have here and really good tyres like I've got. Then most of the time on the road you're going to be slower. You are going to be slower than the standard gears launching, but from a roll it will kill a standard M3. And there's a video on YouTube, I'm going to link to it, where they got the standard M3 3.9 and the 4.1 the roll on. I don't know what speed they're at, and it buggers off. It just buggers off. It's like it's got another 50 horsepower, and it does feel like that. It does feel ridiculously fast. If you're going to supercharge, or if you left-hand drive, turbocharge, I wouldn't recommend getting this gear set if you're thinking about doing it later, because it will just lose traction. I'm losing traction in second and sometimes in third in bad weather. Yeah, so if you're doing any kind of boost, stick with the standard gearing. That's my advice. If you're sticking to NA, like I will be, 4.1 is the way to go. If you feel as if 4.1's a bit too hardcore, I can tell you that's not the case, because the car actually feels smoother and quieter with the 4.1 gears than it did with the standard, because I'm not anywhere near the drone, and that's in automatic mode and in manual mode. You're at a slightly higher RPM, and it's just over that famous drone part of the RPM range on the M3. It's great. I couldn't believe it when I drove back from Banbury, which is where Darragh's based, because I drove up there standard gearing and I drove back. I just couldn't believe it. I wasn't deaf leaving the car, and I could actually have a phone conversation, whereas before that was impossible. So not only is it better on the road, it just punches. It punches. It's got a punch it never used to have. It's amazing. Wow. I don't want to tell you what speed I'm at. Oh, it's just ridiculously quick. Wow. Just from gearing. Just from gearing. Amazing. Oh, it has transformed the car for me. It was the only kind of complaint I had was the gearing on this. Now it's just great. It feels like it's gained 50 horsepower and 20% torque. It hasn't, but it feels like that. I mean, these are quick cars anyway, but now even modern cars are going to have to watch out, especially from a roll. I mean, this is a bit of an animal. Yeah, so I'm really happy, and Darragh is an utter professional. He knows everything about diffs, and he's the only guy that can actually rebuild your standard diff. In fact, the stuff I've got in my diff is a prototype. I'm actually using his first ever batch of replacement parts, of OEM parts that you can't get from BMW. I didn't have to run it in. I didn't have to do the whole figure of 8 thing. It just bolts in and go. And this should last another 100,000 miles. And no more pulling into the McDonald's car park going wah 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 wah. That's gone. Now now it's just quiet. There's a tiny bit of whine, you know, like rally cars with like straight cut gears, they got that whine. There's a tiny bit of whine. It's so negligible. You have to be really fussy, but I think I should just let people know. And that might be because of my oil that I'm using. It might be because it needs to wear in. But it's all brand new, you know, all the gears are new. They need to kind of mesh in. In fact, I've got to drop the oil out soon. And there's a big service coming up. What the fuck are they doing? Idiots. People out here just cannot drive. It's really annoying. Yeah, Darragh Doyle, Everything M3s, or Mr. DJD. I'm going to link to his Facebook and Instagram. Really nice guy. He knows a lot about M3s. He's got a gorgeous Laguna Seca M3 as well that he's kind of restoring, much like I am. Similar age too. And he doesn't just do... Oh, choo-choo train. He doesn't just do diffs. He does everything. He can do your head gasket. He can do Vanos. You know, he can do all those big jobs. And he's a hell of a lot cheaper than, you know, main dealers and even some of the independents. And I don't know how I can put this without getting into trouble, but he really knows what he's talking about. The industry that he works in is... This is very simple in comparison to the stuff that he works on. And he's a very passionate fella as well. I feel very privileged to know Darragh and Matt as well. I mean, those two guys, just if you've got an M3, and it's, you know, they're all getting old now, they're all about 15 years old. Those are the two guys, you know. You got Darragh in Banbury, which is where all the race teams are. Hint, hint, cough, cough, wink, wink. And then you've got you know, Matt and Stevenage, and they're quite close to each other, you know, just outside the N25. It's 30 minutes out the N25 for Matt the Wizard, and it's about 45 minutes out the N25 up the, I think it's the M40 to Banbury. And look, on the way back, you can always pop into Bicester Village for your missus to go and get her cheaper Gucci stuff. But yeah, it has fixed the problem with the car that needed to be done, and it's upgraded the car at the same time. You think about it, I've now got brand new final drive, new gear set, so you know, I would have reused my old one, and that would have been a bit crap. So yeah, there's a lot of new parts in this car, but there's still minor issues. I can't take it to the ring this year. Half of it's my fault because I haven't been there, you know. I just haven't been able to. The enthusiasm and the drive to go, it's kind of hard to find at the moment. But also, the car's not ready, and the reason why it's not ready is my fault, because I'm stuck down here on the south coast, and I can't get to Matt to install the other goodies. And I've got so many goodies that I need to install. But I think the most important thing that needs to be sorted now is the ABS and traction control sensors, the reluctor rings as well. They all need to be changed, and I might need to rebuild my drive shaft, because the new ones cost like £700 off BMW. I might end up buying brand new ones from BMW if they can sort me out a rear pair for a reasonable price. I'll do it. I mean, if they do the pair for like 900 quid, I'll probably buy them to save time and hassle. You could not do that before. See, I was in third gear at about 2,000 RPM, and that would be its dip, because the torque didn't really kick in to about 2.5. So it's just going to go, but now it just goes. You can roll on. I mean, it's not like a turbo car roll on, but you can roll on like you couldn't roll on before. Yeah, it's made it a faster car. It really has. Now, you can order the final drive from BMW. I'll put the part number in there for you. I buy almost all my spares from Cotswold because they always tend to be cheaper. If you're a BMW dealer and you think you're cheaper than Cotswold, let me know, because I've spent thousands and hundreds of pounds on bolts with those guys because they always tend to be cheaper. So I'll put the part number in there for you. Now, I don't want this to turn into a 3.9 versus 4.1. I don't think there's any point in the 3.9. The 4.1 is not hardcore at all. It is not, you know, going to turn it into a track car. Or make it better on track, but it doesn't ruin the car. It does not. Okay, get out of your head. There's a lot of people saying that 4.1 is too extreme, and I can assure you that is not the case at all. 4.1 is perfect, and it makes sense because BMW actually made that final drive for this car. That is a genuine BMW part number. It's a BMW Motorsport part. That's what they call it. So it's a great upgrade. Now I paid, oh god, I'm going off memory again. It was around 750 quid for the final drive. Not cheap, but not ridiculously expensive. Why won't you focus on my face? I don't think the camera likes my face. Even after losing all this weight, still not camera friendly. Oh, I really missed my right paddle. I've got to fix that. But I've got to take the airbag out, and I've just done all that, and I've had it set perfectly, and I'm really reluctant to do it again. Anyway, so I'm going to go to a little stretch of road that I know, just to show you how mental it is now when you take off, and just, it is really fast. So very decent upgrade. If you're sticking to naturally aspirated and just like going airbox, the final drive 4.1, yeah, really worth doing. Stick it on your to-do list. Fuel economy hasn't really changed much. I can hit, I mean, when I drove back from Banbury all the way down to Sussex, which was about 160 miles, I got 32 miles per gallon, but I was in auto mode and just cruising it. But then when I've been gunning it, and yesterday I was having a lot of fun in that rainstorm, about 22 miles per gallon. Look at that, just, it goes. I just rolled on from 2000. Didn't do that before. It's a much more flexible car. Oh, they just love that. I'm going to lose that soon. I'm going to put the cats back in. Because, I mean, the original cats back in. Okay. Traction control, that's for little girls. I'm not going to launch it, so I'm just going to take off aggressively. I've got no paddles, so. How was that for you? Was that good for you? It was good for me. I've got a little bit of dip when I take off. Now that's ever since I replaced the original cats with the special cats from Scorpion. That wasn't very smart. I'm gonna put the original back on. Does this still work? Oh, sorry, I bottled out there. Woo. Yeah, you see, when you put it into S&G6, the gear change is so aggressive that you will lose it. Oh, car coming there. 4's better. 4 is better. Oh. I guess it's hard to convey through the camera, but the forces into the seat are just substantially more than they used to be, and quicker. You know, just more often, because you're going through the gears more often. It's great. When it's raining, this thing is an absolute animal. I was in Eastbourne last night for some reason. And there was a thunderstorm, and it was the 26th yesterday, I think, or 25th. Crazy thunderstorm just suddenly kicked in, and I wasn't driving that quick. but torrential downpour, and there's loads of roundabouts in Eastbourne. And that was hairy. I did some accidental drifting, not intentional at all. It caught me out, and I've got PS4S's on this, and they're very well worn in, and they were pretty hot, but it was so wet, and the gearing is so much shorter than what I'm used to. The car now behaves differently. I did a lot of accidental drifting. I don't mind it, but you know, when it does it by accident, that's always a bit of a scare, isn't it? It's a lot more hairier than what it used to be. 4.1, yes, do it. Just do it. I mean, look, if you've got a car that's got 100,000 miles on it, it's gonna need a new diff, so you might as well do it at the same time. And just go to Darragh. Go to Darragh, because his prices are very reasonable and he knows what he's doing. He really knows what he's doing. He'll have that diff swapped just like that. Only takes longer than half an hour if you you know, fart around and tell jokes, and you know, if you're in a rush, it's easily, you know, you'll be in and out within an hour. It's that quick. Good upgrade, and again, it's an upgrade that is also prevention, right? I'm kind of taking advantage of the fact that it needs to be replaced and upgrading it at the same time, which is good. And again, it's a BMW OEM part, it's not aftermarket, so I know a lot of people don't like that aftermarket. I concur with that. I don't always like aftermarket. It's a win-win, really. You lose very little miles per gallon, you gain a hell of a lot more performance, and you just lose a little bit of top speed that you were never going to get anyway. So the only excuse not to do this is if you're going to go supercharger or turbocharger. Otherwise, just do it. Like Nike always say, just do it. Money well spent. Sorry for the lack of uploads. There are a lot more coming now, since I'm going to be getting out of Sussex very soon, back to London, back home. Hang on, this was my home, is my home, but it's not going to be my home soon because I'm selling it, so yeah, I'll digress. Thanks for watching. Please like, share and subscribe. Sorry I haven't been responding to many of you, so I've been a bit down. I kind of just locked myself away with my PS4 and Netflix, and I'm sure a lot of you could probably understand. But yeah, I'm back. I'm at Goodwood, by the way. I'm only there on Thursday. I don't like it when it's too busy. I think Thursday's awesome, as is Friday. So maybe I'll see a few of you there. And hopefully this will be actually finished by then, because I'm nearly there. Alright guys, take care. See you later. Bye bye.